Two tails, one head, yang. 3 heads, old yang. Two tails, one head, yang. Our primary hexagrams, first or inner trigram, will be Qian, heaven. Two tails, one head, yang. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. Again, our primary hexagram's inner trigram or bottom trigram will be read as solid, 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 or whole, whole, whole. We will get the descriptions of our trigrams and hexagrams from I-ming, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future by Hilary Barrett. Three solid lines, or yang lines, are Qian heaven. Qian is superhuman cosmic law. Enduring, he determines the nature and development of all things, from the movement of the stars to the cycle of the seasons, to causing each individual seed to grow into its own kind of plant. Heaven is creativity in its pure form, the force that drives change and what endures within it. He confronts us with the truth and what it demands, both as the absolute law of nature and as the challenge of individual calling, experienced as an inner law. He is both the awareness of what to do and how to be, and also the power to act on it. Heaven is Father, found in the northwest, the realm between autumn and winter, when the buds set and seeds fall to earth. Our top trigram will be read, or outer trigram will be read as solid, broken, broken, or whole, open, open. This is the trigram. Zen thunder. Thunder is shock, upheaval, and the spark of the new. In old Chinese belief, thunder slept in the earth over winter and erupted from it in spring, awakening living things into new growth. Thunder is our basic drive for renewal. He inspires initiative and decisive action. He is the stimulus that sets things in motion. He is the eldest son in the trigram family, the first connection of heaven, potential, with earth, realization. Yang makes itself known here, emerging into the field and beginning to grow. Thunder belongs to the east and to spring. Zen thunder above Qian heaven gives us hexagram 34. And once our second line transformed from an old yang to a young yin, that will give a first trigram or bottom trigram of solid, broken, solid, or whole, open, whole. This is Li, fire, and light. Li is fire and light, both inner and outer. As an inner light, she is consciousness at its most lucid and unclouded, holding things together in the mind, perceiving their differences and connections, and discerning the underlying patterns of relationship. And as well as vision, Li is the light that makes things visible, the power to cast light on things, spreading clarity and the awareness of order. Li is the middle daughter, living in the south, the region of midsummer and the burning sun. So, Zen thunder above Li, fire and light give us a supporting hexagram of 55. We will be getting the titles of our hexagrams from I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. His I Ching commentary is quite alchemical in nature, and we will read it second in our list of commentaries. Hexagram 34, our primary hexagram, great power. Promoting vigorous positive energy, ability to act or not act at will, transcendence of ordinary capacities. And 55, a supporting hexagram that puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 55 is richness, balance of understanding and action, preventing danger by awareness. We will start out by reading from Hilary Barrett's I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. It's a nice introductory commentary on the I Ching. Hexagram 34, she calls great vigor. Key questions. How will you use your power? Where do you stand? Oracle. Great vigor, constancy bears fruit. With great vigor, you stand upright and robust, full of resilient energy. You are inspired and animated by strong purpose and ready to wield your strength like a hero. For this to yield results, you will need to act with steadiness and consistency, standing in your strength, but without mistaking it for omnipotence. Image. Thunder dwells above heaven, great vigor. A noble one treads no path that is without ritual. The action of thunder rests on the underlying principles of heaven. The noble one, acting with great vigor, will not be improvising and adapting as he goes along. Such great energy needs better guidance if it is to avoid injury. He follows ritual. That is, he acts in ways that observe the principles of creation and follows their patterns. It is not so much a matter of respecting the rules for their own sake as of respecting what is known to work, because it is in harmony with the nature of things. Sequence. Great vigor follows from hexagram 33, retreat. Things cannot end with retreat, and so great vigor follows. In retreat, you withdraw to preserve your integrity and strength, but when you are strong, you cannot stay invisible forever. Instead of withdrawing, you stand firm. And hexagram 55, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all, Hilary Barrett calls abundance. Key questions. What are you called on to do? What decisions must you take now? Oracle. Abundance, creating success. The king assumes it. Do not mourn, a fitting sacrifice at noon. This is a cornucopia, a wealth of resources, but also a wealth of choices, tasks, and demands. This is the crucial moment where it all comes together. The name of the hexagram, Abundance, Fang, is also the name of the garrison city where King Wen made final preparations for the overthrow of the Shang rulers. There, Wen died, and his son Wu had to decide whether to observe the prescribed period of mourning in isolation or take command of the armies at once. He was given a sign, a total eclipse of the sun at noon. Divination revealed that it was not time for Wu to mourn. He had received heaven's mandate to conquer the Shang and should make the right offering to the earth in preparation for war. So the darkness of Shang rule would come to an end. In a time of abundance, you find that, despite what you have lost, there is a new charge given to you that leaves no place for sorrow or anxiety. It is not the time to hide yourself away and grieve the past. Decide what you will do, take it on, make the practical preparations, and march out. Image. Thunder and lightning culminate as one. Abundance. A noble one decides legal proceedings and brings about punishment. Thunder and lightning come together. The storm is directly overhead. It is time for inner clarity to become action, to take the decision and accept the consequences. Sequence. Abundance follows from hexagram 54, the marrying maiden. Attaining the place where you belong naturally means greatness, and so abundance follows. The marrying maiden finds her new home in her husband's house. You may not have asked for your new situation. You may not be ready for it, but it is yours to grow into and make your own. Pair. Abundance forms a pair with hexagram 56, traveling. Abundance has many causes, few connections for the traveler. These show two ways of being at the center, responsible for making the decisions. The traveler is on his own, but here you are at the center of an abundance of resources, plans, and allies, feeling the weight of everything that led up to this point. We will now turn back to our primary hexagram and read our changing line 2, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. It takes precedence over all other elements. Changing line 2 has the general context of the heart's perception, the emotional center, where you make and feel connections. 34, our primary hexagram, changing line 2. Our primary hexagram 34, great vigor, changing line 2. Constancy, good fortune. The demands and opportunities of the moment can be overwhelming. Steady yourself. Remember your purpose. It is stronger than the circumstances, and so are you. Put your principles into practice all the time, all your life. We will now read from I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which is quite alchemical in nature. He wrote this in 1796 as a Taoist adept. Our primary hexagram 34, great power. Great power is beneficial when correct. Explanation. Great power means yang energy is strong and vigorous. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is thunder, active, and below is heaven, strong. Strong within, effective in action. Strong action does not cease. Therefore, it is called great power. This hexagram represents advancement of the vigorous energy of yang. It follows on the previous hexagram, constancy. Constancy is the achievement of perseverance in the path. Perseverance in the path means strong practice in the body, with the mind firm and stable and the will far-reaching, never turning back for even a moment, reaching deeply into self-realization. This is possible only for people of great power. People of great power have extraordinary direction in life. They observe all things with detachment, and may let them go or take them up. Having powerful will, they can carry out powerful affairs, do what others cannot do, be what others cannot be. Transcending the ordinary and entering into sagehood, they do what is rare in the world. Like a movement of thunder rising from earth to the sky, they startle the ignorant and amaze the worldly, shaking up all. However, the path of great power calls for power to be correct. If it is not correct, power is not great, and its application is not beneficial. The people in the world who follow deviated paths, whether they cling to voidness or stick to forms, taking the artificial to be real and do not fear danger and trouble, sometimes never changing all their lives, are indeed powerful, but their power is not correct. Not only is their vigor unable to be great, but they even harm life by power. Then what is the value of power? So the path of great power is only beneficial when it is correct. Correct means correctly oriented, reasonably ordered. Orderly power means one has inner autonomy and self-control, and the will is upright and correctly oriented, while outwardly one does not act arbitrarily, and so one's conduct is upright. When the will is correct, one is firm and strong and impressible, irrepressible. Unmoved by myriad things, one is inwardly vigorous and to accomplish tasks. One is outwardly vigorous and powerful. Will makes action firm. Action makes will complete. Cultivating the inner and the outer at once, even those without power can become powerful, and the powerful can become great. There is no limit to the benefits of power applied correctly. And our supporting hexagram, 55, Richness, puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Richness is developmental. Freedom from worry when the king is great is suited to midday. Explanation. Richness is fullness and greatness. Illumination and action balance each other. Illumination is great and action is great. Therefore, it is called richness. This hexagram represents operating the fire and preventing danger. It follows on the previous hexagram, gradual progress. Gradual progress means stabilization and carrying out practice according to an initiatory process, whereby one gradually advances in an orderly manner, not letting the firing process go awry. Fire is a symbol of illumination. Operating the fire means employing illumination. Illumination is the quality of awareness and perceptivity. If one can be aware, then one has the mind of Tao, and the spirit is knowing. If one can be perceptive, then there is no human mentality and the mind is clear. With the spirit knowing and the mind clear, inwardly cultivating and subtly refining, clear about action and acting with clarity, one's illumination will grow day by day, and one's action will become greater day by day. When illumination and action are applied in concert, practice of the Tao is very easy. This is why richness is developmental. However, though richness of illumination and action is developmental, it is necessary to know when to go forward and when to withdraw, to be able to be great or small, to forestall danger and foresee peril. Only then can richness be enduring richness, can development be enduring development. This is like there being no worry when the king is great. The king represents the ease of making works lofty and great when the accomplishment of the Tao is rich and full. When one is great and knows how to preserve it, there's no worry about greatness. What path is the path of no worry? It is the path suited to midday. Day represents illumination. The middle means freedom from partiality and bias. When development of illumination is rich and full, the firing process has been completed and the medicine has been made. The kindling should be quickly removed from under the stove and the fire should be stopped. Stopping when it is appropriate to stop, illumination is not overused. When illumination is not overused, proceeding and withdrawing according to the time, firmness and flexibility balancing each other without partiality or bias, then that which is not yet rich can become so, while that which is already rich can be preserved. There is no further worry that richness may be lost. We will now read our changing line 2 from our primary hexagram 34, I believe, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. Nope. Yeah, it does. Changing line 2 has the general context of the heart's perception, the emotional center, where you make and feel connections. So back to primary hexagram 34, great power, changing line 2. Use the hide of a yellow ox to fasten this. Oops, I was reading from 33. My bad, okay. 34, great power, changing line 2. Rectitude is auspicious. Explanation. Governing the inward with firmness, responding to the external with flexibility. Outwardly lacking, yet inwardly having more than enough. Being powerful without being rambunctious. Power is in balance. When it is balanced, it is right. When it is right, it leads to good results. This is power with strict self-mastery. We will also read the commentary section on our primary and supporting hexagrams from the back. Great power, hexagram 34. Thunder above, heaven below. Thunder is up in the sky with great power. Thus do superior people refrain from what is improper. Great power means expansion of empowerment. Above is thunder, below is heaven. This is thunder up in the sky. Thunder is something strong and intense. Its energy is very powerful. When it climbs up in the sky, startling all with its vibration, its powerful energy expands even more. This is the image of great power. What superior people see in this is that just as when thunder ascends into the sky in season, it can thus vivify beings, so can people develop character when they carry out their activities according to reason. Therefore, superior people refrain from whatever is improper. Propriety means the moderation of activity and repose, the ordering of engagement and disengagement, guiding self-cultivation and social relations. When ordinary people follow their impulses and do whatever comes to mind, perhaps greedily pursuing idle imaginations, indulging in emotions and giving free rein to desire, this is all improper. Doing what is improper is not conducive to growth or empowerment. Even if one becomes powerful, this is power that abandons the real and enters the false, empowering that which should not be powerful. This is really not power. If one can avoid looking at what should not be looked at, avoid listening to what should not be listened to, avoid saying what should not be said, avoid doing what should not be done, act properly and refrain from what is improper, then whatever one does is proper. Propriety is reason. Reason is celestial. If one puts celestial reason into practice, human desires do not arise. Then every step one takes is in accord with the sublime Tao. One is then a companion of heaven, with the same achievement as thunder. Dwelling in the midst of the elements, one is constrained by the elements. Living among myriad things, one is not harmed by the myriad things. Is that power not great? Dwelling in the midst of the elements, one is not constrained by the elements. I read that wrong. At least I thought I did. Okay. And then our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 55, abundance. Thunder above, fire below. Thunder and lightning both arrive, abundant. Thus do superior people pass judgment and execute punishment. Abundance is fullness and vigor. Above is thunder, below is fire. This is the arrival of both thunder and lightning. Thunder shakes, lightning illumines. Thunder and lightning complement each other. Complement each other. Power and intelligence act together. This is the image of abundance. What superior people see in this is that when people in the world accept the false and abandon the real, take misery for pleasure, crave possessions and sensual stimulation, ruin their character and conduct, misbehave in 100 ways, and enter a state of benightedness, they are like criminals in prison awaiting the time when they will be executed. Looking into the source of this, it is because of not knowing how to distinguish the real from the false. Therefore, superior people emulate the shining illumination of lightning, thoroughly investigating the recondite principles of nature and life, distinguishing right and wrong, like passing judgment in court. Once they have discerned the real within the false, they also distinguish the false within the real. With genuine knowledge and certain insight, they do not mistake the seeming for the true. Emulating the power of thunder, they extirpate implanted, aberrating influences and clean up their spirits, like executing punishment of criminals, liberating the innocent, executing the guilty, acting decisively and directly. They do not grant respite to insidious ills. Passing judgment means applying flexibility in minute discernment, affecting knowledge. Execution means applying firmness to decisive power, acting with strength. The sage's science of nature and life, of body and mind, is twofold, involving knowledge and action. If one knows but does not act, one cannot attain the Tao. If one acts without knowledge, one mistakes nature and life. Knowing and then acting, completing knowledge with practice, proving understanding in action, someday one will master oneself and return to what is right, and all the world will revert to goodness. If students are able to judge truth and act effectively, there is no doubt that they will reach the state of abundance of qualities of the Tao, where wealth is daily renewed. We will now take a look at James Dekorne's Gnostic Book of Changes. I've left links to that in the description box below. He is a practitioner of the Tao himself, and he has left his own little notes in here, editor's notes that are super profound often, and quotes from things like the Kabbalah. He synthesized several different I Ching commentaries in this one place, which you can look. It's a PDF that he has online. So if you want to read more than we're reading here, go to that. He calls Hexagram 34 Great Power. Other titles might be the Power of the Great, the symbol of great vigor, persons of great authority, great strength, great invigorating, great maturity, accumulated force, the strength of the mighty, righteous power, excessive force, judgment, leg. Great power necessitates firm correctness. Wilhelm/Baines, the power of the great, perseverance furthers. Blofeld, the power of the great, persistence in a righteous course brings reward. This hexagram, with a solid group of firm lines topped by a small number of yielding lines, obviously signifies strength. In this case, the power to succeed in spite of difficulties. Much of what follows concerns goats, a symbol presumably suggested by the form of the hexagram, namely a solid body distinguished by a pair of horns, the yielding lines at the top. Lu, great power, it is a benefit to continue. Richness/Karcher, great invigorating, harvesting trial. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of the invigorating power of a central creative idea. It emphasizes that animating everything around you through this guiding motivation is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time, you are told to invigorate through the great. The image, leg. The image of thunder over heaven forms the hexagram of great power. The superior man, in accordance with this, does not take one step that is not in accordance with propriety. Blofeld, this hexagram symbolizes thunder in the sky. The superior man never takes a step involving impropriety. Note, the combination of trigrams meaning thunder and sky suggests something of the awe-inspiring quality of the truly great. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. In great power, we see that which is great becoming strong. The trigram of strength directs the trigram of movement, and hence the whole is expressive of vigor. But that which is great necessitates firm correctness. The attributes of heaven and earth are displayed when firmness and correctness attain their ideal state. For some reason, I imagined the Chariot card of the tarot. Leg. Because the dynamic lines predominate in great power, the figure suggests a state in which there is an abundance of strength and vigor. Is strength alone enough for the conduct of affairs? Of course not. Strength must always be subordinated to the idea of right and exerted only in harmony with it. The lower trigram symbolizes strength, the upper symbolizes movement. In the Confucian commentary, that which is great denotes the group of four dynamic lines which strikes us on looking at the figure, and also the superior men in positions of power, of whom these are the representatives. That the attributes of heaven and earth are displayed means that the power of men should be a reflection of the great power which we see impartially working in nature. Zheng Su says on the image, thunder rolling in the sky and making all things shake is the symbol of great power. In relating its application to man, he quotes a beautiful saying of antiquity. The strong man is he who overcomes himself. Notes and paraphrases, judgment, control yourself. The superior man does nothing that is not in accordance with the principles of the work. Wilhelm and Blofeld translate this hexagram as power of the great, but I prefer Lu's rendition of great power because it has a more neutral connotation. The power of the great suggests the might of kings and emperors and implies superior power wielded at one's own discretion. It is too easy to misinterpret this hexagram as a clear injunction to take unilateral action. Such is seldom the case. The hexagram depicts a charge of latent energy which must be properly managed. The figure is usually compared with the image of a ram or goat. the 4 lower dynamic lines being the body and the 2 upper magnetic lines representing the horns. Since this hexagram is the preceding figure of retreat turned upside down, one can imagine the 2 together as a person retreating across a pasture, pursued by a charging beast. The ram or goat is mentioned in 4 of the 6 lines of the hexagram. This is certainly great power, but in such a crude form, it cannot be truthfully called the power of the great. Truly great power, as the judgment tells us, is derived from our will to restrain our emotions, instincts, and appetites. Note that lines 2 and 4 are the most positively forceful lines in the hexagram, and that both imply restraint of power as the proper way to attain one's goals. Without changing lines, the hexagram sometimes refers to provocations in which one is legitimately tempted to a self-righteous display of power. Remember that other people's ego trips are none of your concern. The superior man does not respond to them with other than dignified reserve. Regard it as a test and be joyful if you pass it. A quote from Araya Kaplan in Jewish Meditation. Everything found in later literature seems to indicate that these meditative schools required a strong discipline and faithful adherence to a strict regimen. The schools were extremely demanding and were open only to those willing to devote themselves totally. Before even being admitted to one of these ancient meditative schools, a person had to be not only spiritually advanced, but in complete control of all his emotions and feelings. Beyond that, the disciplines of the Torah and commandments were central to these schools, and these disciplines required a degree of self-mastery to which not everyone could aspire. We will now go to our supporting hexagram 55, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. James Dekorne calls our supporting hexagram 55 abundance, or expansion of awareness. Other titles might be fullness, the symbol of prosperity, greatness, abounding, richness, prolific, fruitful, luxuriant, zenith, affluence, correct action, lucid behavior. A quote from D.F. Hook generally means that one will have enough for one's needs with a little over. Does not mean large wealth as a rule. Judgment. Leg. Expansion of awareness means progress and development. When the king is enlightened, there is no need to fear a change. Let him be as the sun at noon. Wilhelm/Baines, abundance has success. The king attains abundance. Be not sad. Be like the sun at midday. Blofeld, abundance, success. The king inspires them. Do not be sad. It is fitting to be like the sun at its zenith. Abundance in itself is often good, but it is generally followed by the waning of what was abundant. Moreover, as we shall see, there can be abundance of darkness or anything else unpleasant. The judgment itself may be taken as an auspicious omen. Ritzimo/Karcher, abounding, growing, the king imagining it, no grief, properly sun-centering. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of profusion and abundance reaching culmination. It emphasizes that exuberantly increasing things to their fullest is the adequate way to handle it. Cleary 2, richness is success. A king attains this. Do not worry. Take advantage of the sun at noon. The image, leg. The superior man, in accordance with this, decides cases of litigation and apportions punishments with exactness. Wilhelm/Baines, both thunder and lightning come, the image of abundance. Thus, the superior man decides lawsuits and carries out punishments. Commentary. Confucius/Leg, the greatness of expansion of awareness is due to movement directed by clarity. Although the king has attained this state, he must still make it greater. But there is no need for anxiety. Let him be as the sun at noon. Let his clarity shine on all under the sky. As soon as sun and moon reach zenith, their light begins to wane. The intercourse of heaven and earth alternates between abundance and scarcity. It waxes and wanes according to the seasons. How much more so with men or spiritual forces? Ritzema/Karcher translates spiritual forces, Q Shen, as the whole range of imaginal beings, both inside and outside the individual. Spiritual powers, gods, demons, ghosts, powers, fetishes, ED. Let me take this cat in, and I'm going to be right back. Leg. Written Chinese character denoting expansion of awareness is the symbol of being large and abundant, a condition of prosperity. In human affairs, prosperity often gives place to its opposite. The lesson of the hexagram is to show how the ruler may preserve the prosperity of his state and people. The component trigrams show motive force under the direction of intelligence. A ruler with these attributes will not fail to maintain the progress and development of his kingdom. He is told not to be anxious, but to study how he may always be like the sun at its zenith, cheering and enlightening all. It must be noted that a change has been introduced in this hexagram in explaining the symbolism of the lines. Normally, for two lines to have a correct relationship, one must be female, magnetic, and the other male, dynamic. Here, two dynamic male lines make a proper correlation in the first and fourth places. In the image, lightning appears as the natural phenomenon of which clarity is the symbol in the lower trigram. The virtues of clarity and movement are required of the superior man in judging litigation. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Don't grieve when the truth hurts. A loss of illusion is a gain in awareness. Once truly attained, enlightenment cannot be lost. It can only be increased. The superior man acts with clarity by accurately evaluating cause and effect, or the objective assessment of any contradiction is the road to comprehending it. The 55th hexagram is very intriguing in that it appears to have a misleading title in the original Chinese, which is usually translated as abundance, fullness, prosperity, etc. All of the internal clues plus empirical experience with the figure have convinced me that the title Expansion of Awareness is a more accurate description of the forces operating in this hexagram. Here is my reasoning. First, the component trigrams of clarity and movement portray action directed by clear comprehension, as well as awareness itself in motion or expansion. The title of abundance seems misleading because it suggests a relatively static condition, whereas the combined trigrams in the figure symbolize clear movement. These trigrams appear in reverse sequence in hexagram number 21, discernment, which symbolizes the act of comprehending. A dynamic function of consciousness described in the image here as a quest for justice. Thus, the superior man decides lawsuits and carries out punishments, Wilhelm. Notice also that the message for the superior man in this image is almost identical with that in discernment. Thus, the kings of former times made firm the laws through clearly defined penalties, Wilhelm. The ancient kings can always be taken as symbolic of archetypal forces, the gods, so their laws are those of nature, not of humankind. Interpreted broadly, both messages counsel us to comprehend the law of Tao or suffer the penalties of ignorance, which is to say, expand your awareness. Second, note the message in the judgment. Most of the translators render this by comparing the king at the peak of his power with the sun at the peak of its illumination at noon. The sun is the symbol of clarity and enlightenment, and the sun at its zenith therefore symbolizes a high point of awareness. Third, notice that lines 2, 3, and 4 depict an eclipse of the sun through its waxing, full, and waning phases. This suggests ignorance gradually evolving toward comprehension, which is finally attained in line 5. The progression in the hexagram is from ignorance to clarity, and then in line 6, ignorance within clarity, i.e., an image of one who remains obtuse while surrounded by the light of illumination. Fourth, the combined trigrams of shock and light, thunder and lightning, suggest a sudden and numinous illumination, the sort of enlightenment expansion of awareness described by yogis. A quote from Gopi Krishna in Kundalini, the evolutionary energy in man. Suddenly, with a roar like that of a waterfall, I felt a stream of liquid light entering my brain through the spinal cord. The illumination grew brighter and brighter, the roaring louder. I experienced a rocking sensation and then felt myself slipping out of my body, entirely enveloped in a halo of light. I was no longer myself, or to be more accurate, no longer as I knew myself to be, a small point of awareness confined in a body, but instead was a vast circle of consciousness in which the body was but a point, bathed in light and in a state of exaltation and happiness impossible to describe. It is possible that the written character translated into English as abundance has these associations in Chinese. Unfortunately, the title of abundance itself does not immediately suggest in the English language the ideas that are integral in the symbolism of the hexagram. We will go back to our primary hexagram. Great vigor or power. And read our changing line 2, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here's some places you may find yourself. Takes precedence over all other elements. It has the general context, changing line 2 does, of the heart's perception, the emotional center, where you make and feel connections. Our primary hexagram 34, great power, changing line 2. Leg. The second line dynamic shows that with firm correctness, there will be good fortune. Wilhelm/Baines, perseverance brings good fortune. Blofeld, persistence in a righteous course brings good fortune. Wu, perseverance will bring auspiciousness. Commentary, Confucius/Leg, because he is in the center and exemplifies the due mean. Wilhelm/Baines, because it is in the central place. Blofeld, this is indicated by the line's central position in the lower trigram. Ritsumo/Karcher, using centering indeed. Clary 2, because of balance. Wu, because the second line is central. Leg, the strength of line 2 is tempered by his being in a magnetic place, which is also in the center. With firm correctness, there will be good fortune. The central position and the due moral mean in line 2 are illustrative of the maxim, the strong man is he who overcomes himself. Notes and paraphrases. Su, the way begins to open for growth and progress. Exuberant self-confidence needs to be tempered by continued inner equilibrium in the use of power. Wing, moderation now is the key to lasting success. Do not allow yourself to become overconfident because you meet with such little resistance in your efforts. Use your power carefully. Editor, the symbolism of the line and Leg's commentary point out the fact that willpower is the cornerstone of the work. A quote from the Chandogya Upanishad. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. A man is, above all, his will. He is his will in this life, so does he become when he departs from it. Therefore, should his will be fixed and attaining Brahman. James Dekorne breaks changing line 2 down into two possible succinct definitions, A and B. A, willpower succeeds, and B, don't give up the ship. We will now get a randomly card drawn chapter or chapters from the Tao Te Ching, whilst I create a summation of the reading. So our primary hexagram 34, great power, shows thunder above the trigram of heaven. And thunder is great, but when it's high up in the sky, it has the potential to resound even wider than normal. And so what would normally be considered power becomes great power. Often when the trigram of heaven is below another trigram, it is an auspicious reading. It's like heaven supports this. So heaven supporting thunder, there's great power, but also it should be balanced if it's going to be effective and correct. Our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 55, abundance, or expansion of awareness, as James Dekorne called it. This shows, like Hilary Barrett said, like a cornucopia of abundance. So this is light, the trigram of fire and light, below the trigram of thunder, which shows thunder and lightning both in the sky together. And thunder, the trigram thunder, the idea behind it was that in the spring, thunder sprung out of the earth, which issued living things into new growth. And so that's kind of the idea behind abundance. And in the abundant thunder vibe with the trigram of Li, fire and light below it, that's abundance of illumination. So I see why James Dekorne would call it expansion of awareness. So what supports our great power in this reading, our primary hexagram, is great abundance or expansion of awareness. So this is a fruitful time to look over your reserves and think about how you could wield such great power with such great abundance. With our changing line 2, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, at least here are some places you may find yourself. It takes precedence over all other elements. Our changing line showed that it was balanced and that you would act with willpower. So will under restraint. Oftentimes in the different readings, one of the hexagrams will talk about, especially through James Dekorne, the ego being the servant of the self, capital self. And the ego is the one responsible for wielding the will. So with such great abundance possible and such great power at one's disposal, one would hope that one has the willpower to wield such great abundance and strength and vigor, basically a bunch of power available to be discharged in some direction, that one would use that towards the will of the self in a balanced way and not act in any way that is improper, which is a lot of the stuff that I-ming's commentary said. So essentially the great person or the sage would, in this situation, see the great potential of such a time and, as always, work to further the work, and that being what is directed by the self, putting into use the will of the ego to enact those ends accordingly. No, I'm gonna bring this just because I feel proud of me. It's a lot to process. And we will get a reading from the Tao Te Ching as soon as something. Jeez, not that many, but we'll take this one. 51, so it's hanging out. And my copy of the Tao Te Ching is by Jia Fu Fang and Jane English. Chapter 51. All things arise from Tao. They are nourished by virtue. They are formed from matter. They are shaped by environment. Thus the 10,000 things all respect Tao and honor virtue. Respect of Tao and honor of virtue are not demanded, but they are in the nature of things. Therefore, all things arise from Tao. By virtue they are nourished, developed, cared for, sheltered, comforted, grown, and protected. Creating without claiming, doing without taking credit, guiding without interfering. This is primal virtue.